You have 9 notifications waiting on your screen. You don't see them, not really. Your thumb moves past them the way you'd walk past furniture in a dark room. Careful, automatic, uninterested, you're looking for one name. It isn't there. So you lock the phone, unlock it again, and check the exact same list as if the act of looking twice might change what's written on it. It won't. You know it won't. And still you check. This is one of the strangest things your mind does, and it happens so often that you've probably stopped noticing how strange it actually is. 10 people can reach out to you in a day, and if the one person you're waiting on stays silent, none of the other 9 will register as company. They'll just sit there, unread in every sense, while your attention narrows down to a single absence. Maybe it's a friend who hasn't replied to the message you sent 3 hours ago, the one you rewrote twice before sending. Maybe it's someone you're falling for, and their silence has started to feel like a verdict you haven't been given yet. Maybe it's a parent, a sibling, someone whose approval has quietly mattered your whole life, and their lack of response feels heavier than it should for a simple text. The specific person changes from year to year. What doesn't change is the pattern. Your mind picks one name and hands it a kind of authority none of the others get. Why does one missing name outweigh 9 present ones? Start with what's actually happening in your body while you wait. It isn't calm. It isn't neutral background noise. Waiting for a specific response from a specific person produces something closer to low-grade physical discomfort, a kind of restlessness that sits behind your sternum and won't quite settle. Researchers who study social pain, including work associated with psychologist Naomi Eisenberger, have pointed to something the brain seems to treat as true even when we'd never say it out loud. Social distress and physical distress share overlapping territory in how the brain responds to them. Being excluded, ignored, or left hanging doesn't just feel bad the way sadness feels bad. It registers at some level the way an injury does. That's not a metaphor you're choosing. It's closer to how the system is built. So when you say you're just checking your phone, what you're actually doing is checking on a wound. Every glance at the screen is an attempt to find out whether it's healing or getting worse. But that still doesn't explain why it has to be this one name. You have other relationships, other people who like you, who text you, who would answer if you reached out first. So why does your mind fixate on the one person who currently isn't responding instead of resting in the presence of everyone who is? This is where attachment comes in. Not romantic attachment necessarily, just the basic wiring humans have for treating certain people as safety. Attachment theory, going back to the work of John Bowlby and later expanded by researchers like Mary Ainsworth, describes something simple but easy to forget. Not all relationships are interchangeable. Your nervous system doesn't treat people as a pool of equally valid sources of reassurance. It assigns specific roles to specific people. One person becomes, consciously or not, a kind of emotional anchor. Someone whose response tells you something particular about where you stand, whether that's belonging, forgiveness, romantic interest, or simple proof that you still matter to them. When that person goes quiet, no substitute works. A message from someone else doesn't answer the question your body is actually asking. It's like getting a kind note from a stranger when you're waiting on a verdict from a judge. Think about how differently silence lands depending on who it comes from. If a coworker you barely know doesn't reply to a message for 2 days, you probably don't think about it again. If the person your mind has quietly ranked as an anchor goes quiet for 2 hours, you feel it in your chest. Same behavior, not responding, but two completely different meanings. Because your nervous system isn't grading everyone on the same scale. It's already decided, long before you consciously chose anything, which few people carry the authority to make you feel secure or unsettled. Now here's the part that makes the waiting worse instead of better. If this person answered you instantly, every single time, in exactly the way you hoped, the checking would probably fade. Certainty is boring. It doesn't need to be monitored. But most relationships don't work that way. Sometimes they respond in 5 minutes, sometimes in 5 hours. Sometimes the reply is warm, sometimes it's short, sometimes it doesn't come until you've already given up expecting it. This unpredictability is not a minor detail. It's the engine driving the whole behavior. Decades ago, B.F. Skinner ran a series of experiments showing that behavior reinforced on an unpredictable schedule is far more resistant to extinction than behavior reinforced every single time. Animals that received a reward only sometimes on no fixed pattern kept pressing the lever long after animals on a predictable schedule had given up. The uncertainty itself became the hook. You don't know when the good outcome is coming, so you keep checking, just in case this time is the time. Replace lever with phone and the picture becomes uncomfortably familiar. If a person responds inconsistently, your brain doesn't file that pattern as unreliable and back off. It does the opposite. It treats the unpredictability as a reason to stay vigilant, because inconsistency means the payoff could arrive at any moment, and missing it feels like a real cost. Think about the difference between two people in your life. One always replies within the hour, in a warm, predictable way. You barely think about waiting for them, because there's nothing uncertain to resolve. The other replies sometimes right away and sometimes not for a day. Sometimes affectionately and sometimes briefly, without explanation. It's almost always the second person your mind fixates on. Not because you care about them more as a rule, but because their unpredictability keeps the question open. An open question is what your attention gets pulled toward again and again, the same way an unfinished sentence pulls at your ear until someone finishes it. So the full mechanism looks something like this. A specific person has been assigned, somewhere below conscious awareness, as a source of emotional safety or validation. Their responses are unpredictable rather than guaranteed. And waiting itself produces a form of discomfort your brain treats seriously, not as a trivial inconvenience. Put those three things together and you get exactly what you've experienced. 9 notifications that don't matter, 1 absence that does, and a thumb that won't stop scrolling back to check. Here's the uncomfortable part. The person you're waiting on didn't do anything to earn that kind of power over your attention. You gave it to them, not through some conscious decision, but through repetition. Through however many times their response successfully calmed something in you before. Every time their message brought relief, your brain quietly filed away a lesson: this person can turn the discomfort off. And once that lesson is learned, your nervous system keeps returning to them for the same relief, the same way it would return to any reliable source of a needed resource. Even when that source is inconsistent, even when it's currently unavailable. This isn't a flaw unique to you. It's not a sign of weakness, and it's not proof that you're too attached or too needy. It's closer to basic behavioral wiring interacting with basic attachment wiring, the same architecture that helped humans stay connected to caregivers, allies, and partners for as long as our species has existed. The system wasn't built for silence at 2 a.m., with a glowing screen in a dark room. It was built for tighter, slower, face-to-face social worlds. It's just running on hardware that predates the environment it now operates in. So the checking isn't really about information. If it were, one glance would be enough. You'd see there's no new message and move on. But you don't move on, because what you're actually asking for isn't information. It's permission. Permission to stop bracing. Permission to let the discomfort go without needing someone else to grant it. And that's a request the other person's silence can never answer, because they were never the one who could turn it off in the first place. They were only ever the trigger that made it feel possible. None of this means the waiting is irrational, or that the relationship doesn't matter, or that you should simply decide to care less. It means the intensity of the wait was never really a measurement of the relationship's importance. It was a measurement of how much regulation you'd routed through one unpredictable source instead of keeping some of it for yourself. You look down at the screen again. 9 notifications, still unread, still not the one you wanted. But this time you notice something you hadn't before. The space where a name should be isn't actually empty. It's full of everything you handed over to someone else's timing. And for the first time, that space belongs to you again, whether or not the name ever shows up.